Cavin Elizabeth. I'm a wedding photographer based in San Diego. Today's topic is going to be all about the top mistakes that I see couples making with their wedding. To jump right in, the first one I see is not hiring a coordinator or a planner. This is huge because it affects everything. Now, I have a lot of brides who think they're really organized, and that's fine. They can kind of handle plans up to the day, but on the day itself, sometimes without planners, I have seen the most chaotic weddings. I have to become the timekeeper of everybody, so I'm not as focused on photography. I'm also being so focused on getting everybody to different places and organizing people and telling people that they need to hurry up. So I kind of become this bad guy that I don't want to be because I need people to like me when I'm taking their photos. So if I'm kind of like bossing them around, telling them where to go because no one else is in charge helping me with that, then they're not as happy to be around me for photos. But it's just something that I find is such a huge mistake. Every bride that I have ever had who did not hire a planner after the fact told me that they wish they hired a planner. Whether it be day of coordination or full service planning, they said that they wish they had somebody because they ended up having to do a lot of work on the wedding day for their own wedding. Or the family was stressed. The family couldn't enjoy everything. I have had weddings run incredibly late because there was nobody keeping people on time. And when things are late, you will lose time from photography. You lose time on portraits, whether it be family, bridal party, or bride and groom. Most often you're losing it from the bride and groom portraits, and that is really sad. So I really highly recommend at the very least getting a day of coordinator. Now, venues will sometimes have a venue coordinator. That's a whole different topic on why that is not the same thing as an actual coordinator. Venue coordinators are there for the venue. A lot of times they will help you with some stuff and then they're nowhere to be found. So I really recommend, even if you have a venue coordinator, even if they tell you you don't need an extra coordinator because we've got you covered, don't listen to it because sometimes that's okay, but a lot of times it is not. I have seen venues that say don't get somebody, we've got you covered, and wow, they were nowhere to be found when we needed them for all sorts of things. They usually leave after dinner is served. They're not there for the end of the night. They're not there to help you with your sparkler exit, whatever it may be. Do not listen to that. I don't care what they tell you. Use one and you will be glad that you have one. They're not going to hurt. They can only help. So that's a really big point that I want to make is please, please, please do not make the mistake of not having a coordinator. Now, if you are having a tiny, intimate backyard wedding for 15 people, you probably don't need somebody. But I would say if you're having at least 20 guests, 50 guests especially, definitely 100 or more, please, please, please have some sort of coordinator or planner there for you to help you with everything you need. The next one is something that I hear from so many people, whether it be friends, even wedding vendors who got married a long time ago, people online, everywhere. I see people regretting that they went too cheap and skimped on a photographer and they hate their photos because they decided to either go with someone for free or they didn't get a photographer or they got a $500 photographer from Craigslist or a photography student and they absolutely hated their photos. Do not do this if you care about photography. And if you're watching this video, I assume that you do care about photos. The number one thing that I hear people regretting is not getting a great photographer. You are going to have these photos for the rest of your life. That is something that you should be investing time and money in if you care about it. If you don't care about photos, whatever, don't hire anybody. But it's really something that I hear all the time from friends, even wedding planners I know. They'll say, I got married before I got into the industry and I really wish that we had had a better photographer because I don't like the photos I have. They are not nice to look at. That is so heartbreaking to me. And if you've already had your wedding and you hate your photos, you can always do a vow renewal or you can have some sort of anniversary session. So there is still hope for you to get some photos that you love, but your wedding day probably is only going to happen once, hopefully. So definitely invest in a photographer. Do not go cheap. Do not skimp on it. I understand everybody has to have a budget, but perhaps if you find somebody you love, you could maybe stretch your budget to get them. And I think that you will be so much happier than if you went with a really, really cheap bargain photographer who has no experience, has not shot a wedding. You don't know what their portfolio looks like. It is just such a big risk to take and I don't recommend it. Another thing is not giving your photographer enough time on the wedding day. I've talked about this in previous videos, But if photographers don't have the time they need, they can't deliver the set of photos that they really want to be giving you, that you might have hired them for. So give them the time that they need. Do not make the mistake of giving them 5 minutes when they've asked for 45 minutes. And if you're doing that, just be aware that you're not going to get everything that you want if you're not giving them the time to create those things. This one is kind of crazy because I know weddings are a lot of times big parties for people, especially for groomsmen. Sometimes they start drinking quite heavily the morning of the wedding. Now, it's one thing to have a little bit of champagne, have a beer, but if your bridal party or you or your family are doing big shots before the wedding or heavily drinking before the wedding, and you are drunk for your photos or your ceremony, that is not good. You will notice in the pictures if someone is drunk in front of the camera. Now, it's a big difference if that happens during getting ready or the ceremony versus the reception and people are dancing. That's sort of expected, that people might have had a little bit more alcohol later in the day, but you do not want anybody being completely drunk before the ceremony even starts. So if you know that people in your family or your bridal party are heavy drinkers, please, please, please ask them to not go too crazy before the reception begins, because there are things to be done, pictures to be taken, and you want everybody to be able to pay attention and look fresh in their photos. This one applies pretty much only to brides, and that is that sometimes I see brides wearing either extremely uncomfortable shoes that they cannot walk in, they don't want to go anywhere for portraits because their feet hurt, they can't walk, they don't have a second pair of shoes, or a gown that is so tight they can't even sit in it. If you cannot sit in your gown, just know that there are things you won't be able to do for your pictures. It is definitely going to be a little bit restricting of you. I know a lot of times brides are really drawn to a gown and it just so happens that they really can't sit in it. You're going to be sitting for a lot of your reception, during dinner, during your toast. You need to make sure that you have some way to sit down, and know that if you can't really sit in your dress, there are going to be some photos that you might not be able to get to take because of that, like gorgeous shots of you putting on your shoes because you can't bend over far enough. It's not a huge deal, but the main point of this is that please do not choose shoes and a dress that make you so uncomfortable that you can't breathe or you can't sit or you cannot feel anything but just claustrophobic, because that will come through in the photos. So if you are choosing a dress that is very form-fitted, make sure that you are at least able to breathe in it and that it's not so uncomfortable that you are going to be miserable. The same goes for your shoes. Do not choose 5-inch heels if those are not comfortable for you to make it in for more than a couple of hours. This one is more for your health. It not only affects the way you feel, but the way you photograph, because if you are feeling burnt out and tired and sluggish or irritable, that's going to show on camera most of the time, unless you have a really amazing genie photographer who can just pull it out of you and get that bit of happiness. But if you are not eating enough food on the wedding day and you have not hydrated enough, it is very likely that you are going to all of a sudden get really hangry or get shaky or just feel weak and not be able to keep going with the festivities. Please make sure that you hydrate, eat little snacks throughout the wedding day, get your bridal party or your planner or a parent to be in charge of giving you food throughout the day to make sure that you eat, whether it's a protein shake or some cheese, crackers, whatever. Please make sure that you are eating and drinking water on the wedding day, especially if you're going to be drinking alcohol. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate to help prevent the hangover the next day. Now, this next one is not something I experience often, but it definitely is a big mistake that couples make, and that is being rude to the vendors that you've hired or the staff that is there on your wedding day. We are here for you. Even though you've paid us, we are happy to be working for you on the wedding day, working with you, doing things for you that are going to give you a spectacular wedding day. And when couples are not nice to us, it just does not make us feel good. And I can tell you right now that the couples who are insanely kind and sweet and so appreciative and thankful and just pleasant to be around, they're the couples that we are more likely to go a little bit above and beyond for. So we are going to maybe give them a little bit of extra time, or we're going to give them a little bit of extra flowers, whatever it may be. Not necessarily that they're entitled to that, but I am much more likely to go extra and do more than what I've been paid for somebody who's really sweet and kind and I feel is deserving of a bit extra. If somebody is being really rude to me, I'm still going to do my job, but I can guarantee you I'm not going to be giving a bunch of extra things to them. I'm not going to be doing way more than what I was paid for. I'm going to do my job really well and be kind and cordial, and that's about it, because that's exactly what I've been paid for. But those brides and grooms who are really, really sweet, or their families are really sweet, I'm going to go above and beyond for them. I'm going to do a little bit extra. I'm just going to be able to connect with them better because they're being nice to me. And I think if you have a great connection with your photographer, you're going to get better photos. If you are spending the day yelling at them or not learning their name and just calling them photographer, I have had that happen once, that is not okay. And they're not going to love that, and you're not going to feel as connected and comfortable with them if you are being really demanding and really rude. So please treat people kindly. We are people, even though we are a business, we're still people. We have feelings. We want to love our jobs. That's why we do this. And if you're being nice to us, we're going to really appreciate that. We're going to love you for it, and it is just going to be so much of a better day for everybody involved. Now, the last one is not really a mistake so much as when you do it, we really, really appreciate it. So when you get your photos back and you're posting them on Instagram, we absolutely love it when you credit us for our work, because we worked so hard for your wedding. And even though you paid for these things, it is so nice to acknowledge the artist behind the work. It's just like if you have a painting, you're probably not going to scribble out their signature because you want people to know who did this beautiful work. So if you're really proud of your photos, please credit your photographer. At minimum, the photographer, because they're the artist who made that photo. And even though it was made for you, they are the person who created it. So a lot of my couples credit me, and I love that. I think that is so kind and so lovely of them to do, and I truly appreciate it. And I know that your florist and your hair and your makeup person really love when you do the same thing for them. It just shows appreciation, and it's something really nice to do. You might not always have to, sometimes you might have to, but please do this. It really makes us so happy. It helps share our work with the world. It makes sure that we get fair credit. Now, especially if you are the kind of bride who is really into social media and you are trying to get somebody like Wedding Wire or Loverly or The Knot to regram your photos, if you have not credited your vendor team in the caption and your photo gets regrammed, guess where all those credits go? Not on that photo. So I have had my work regrammed from brides to big publications, and my name is nowhere in sight, and that is not okay. That is my photo that they're sharing and not crediting me on this giant publication. Sometimes it'll get thousands of likes and no one knows it belongs to me, and that really makes me sad, makes me very disappointed. And it's something just to keep in mind if you are trying to get your photos out there in the world as a bride. Please credit your vendors in the caption. If you just simply tag them on the photo, those will really disappear if it's ever regrammed. So the caption is the best place to put things. People will see that faster, and if it gets regrammed by a really big account, those credits will be on there as they should be, because especially as a publication on Instagram, they should absolutely be crediting those vendors. So please, 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 we love it when you credit us. It's greatly appreciated. Again, it might not be something you have to do, but we really love you when you do it. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope this helps you avoid some of the biggest mistakes that I see, or just things that we love when you do. But anyways, I will see you guys next time. Bye!